people are like, what does that mean? I think most of us have heard the term SEO, where SEO helps your website be found in search. I am about making sure you're present and visible in front of the people who you want to reach. So it's being there. I come from 30 plus years in global brand marketing, to be honest, and I help launch the visibility in the social and digital space for brands everybody knows, like Nestle. I brought their regional spring waters and their global brands like San Pellegrino and Perrier into the digital world. I've worked with brands including Disney and Playtex Baby. I created the first digital program for moms to be who are up in the middle of the night looking for content while they're feeding babies. And now I'm heading into my 4th year of working with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and sales professionals on helping them increase their visibility. And when Amy and I were talking, I shared with her that in my programs and in my one-on-one work, I do something where we first outline your content, so a content map, and many of my clients use that as the outline for their book. And then we take that and we create content from that. I do 50 pieces of content, 50 points of outline with them, and then we turn that into 365 days of content. And so when we were talking, Amy's like, oh, all of my people have content. And so this might be a great demonstration to share how you can take one piece of content and create it 7 different ways. And when you think about that, if you have 50, which you all do, I am certain, that's 365 days of content. And most of my clients create a month's worth of content in about an hour over the weekend. So with that said, I want to ask some very basic questions. Firstly, how many of you feel like you have information you want to share? Raise your hand, say yes. Most of us do, right? And as writers, I'm sure you do. And how many of you would very much like to make a bigger impact? That's why many of us write a book, right? And then, of course, I suspect some of you might want to sell some books. Yes. So are you doing it on LinkedIn? Are you using LinkedIn? Are you using social media platforms at all? Good. So today I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for a volunteer. Hopefully somebody will be too afraid to raise their hand to volunteer. And we're going to write 7 days of social content in about 15 minutes. May take me a little longer and I'll stop, you know, if we run out of time, but this way you can see how quickly it goes. As Amy said, we put a worksheet in the chat. Now you don't have to pull it open right now, but it looks like this. And this is the framework for your 7 days of content. And then I'm going to open up just a simple Word document and share that as we go through this one-on-one. So is there anyone here who has a new blog or a topic that you really would be interested in sharing in social media and would like to use as an example to create 7 days of content? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, Jody, I love that you raised your hand. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm being here so that we have something to work on so everybody can see. Oh, can you give me the sharing option, Amy?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. And Jody, while she's doing that, why don't you tell me what you do and what your topic is that you would like to share a little bit on.
Okay, I'm Jody, and I have a book. It's called Journey for One, a guide to gaining the courage and skills to travel solo. And it's a workbook style book that tells stories and gives information and lets you work through the steps of getting the courage and overcoming your stumbling blocks of how to get yourself, whether you want to or need to, whatever the situation, to travel solo.
Perfect. So I'm sure you have multiple chapters in your book. I didn't get the name correct, absolute, but it gives the idea here.
All right.
And so let's pick one topic.
Okay.
Out of the book that you would like to focus on?
I guess I would say I'd go for right now. I think I'd go with the fear chapter.
Okay. Okay. So what we are going to do, and what I want to just ground everyone in here is this process, you don't have to use the same topic for 7 days. I do this merely as a demonstration to show you how easy it is to take one idea and leverage it in multiple different ways so that it creates different content. So there are some people in social media who follow the principle of I share about the same thing every day during the week, and others who follow the principle of I share different topics each day. It really comes down to a personal preference and what you're trying to elevate. So here we're going to focus on one just as an example. And the other thing is when I'm working with my clients in the group or in a one-on-one setting, those that are not comfortable producing content, which is not the case with any of you, I have them do this 7 days a week so that they start to build that muscle. So not everybody has to do 7 days a week. And in fact, if you're posting on LinkedIn, I always say start with 5, build your following, and then 3 days a week is fine. So again, this is just really to help people flex that muscle. So we're going to start with Monday, and Monday is all about asking for help. Help in the vein of settling a discussion, help in you have an idea for a blog and you want to find out what their interests might be. Help might be that you're trying to decide on a headline for an article. It doesn't really have to be anything specific, but the idea here is to do an outreach to create the engagement, because on LinkedIn, particularly, you can post 15 times, but if you get no engagement, particularly comments, it's not worth a lot. 15 comments on one post is exponentially more valuable than 15 posts, because LinkedIn looks at the algorithm and says, oh, this is of interest, I'm going to share it with more people. And the more people who comment on it, it gets into their feeds and pushes out further. You can get a 65% reach in your network by doing a post with that generates comments versus a 2.5% on Facebook. So just to give you a little sense there. So we're going to look for help. So Anne, when we talk about fear of traveling solo, what do you think is the biggest point that people have to overcome with that fear?
Fear of getting lost.
Okay, so let's talk about fear of getting lost here. And we're going to do it as a help type of thing. It says,
excuse me 1 second, Benita, can I ask you to enlarge the page on there? So
of course.
Pretty small for my more mature eyes. There
Me
we go.
too. I'm wearing special glasses. So is this a little better?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to say, I'm working on some updates, and forgive my typing here, some updates for my book. And I would probably here put the title.
Mm-hmm.
And have been revisiting the chapter on fear. Revisiting the chapter on fear and the number and the leading reasons we are all afraid of traveling alone. Historically, it has been the fear of getting lost. However, with today's technology, e.g. GPS on our phones and translation tools, I am wondering, whoops, sorry about that, if this remains, if this still remains remains the number one fear. Is fear of getting lost more, is fear of getting lost more relevant than, what is another fear, Jody?
Not speaking the language.
Than not speaking the language? Okay, now what we've done here is we have taken the element of fear and traveling alone. We've integrated your book title. We have addressed some things that are relevant in people's mindset today with traveling, with the GPS. And unbeknownst to me, language is the second one, and I put in here with transition tools. And we've now laddered up those two topics that may or may not really be something that you're interested in learning about the book, but are both things that I think every one of us can relate to. And you've put it out in a way that it's approachable. So you might, now this is just as a reference point here, but you might open it up as, I'm wondering which way is up. Okay. Thinking about directions and all of that.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
kind of a goofy little hook, or I'm wondering which way is north. It could be that. I'll change that here, you know. It catches somebody's attention. The other thing that I would say here is, I suspect that you have connections on LinkedIn, and I suspect that you know people who've gotten lost or have language barriers. So I would tag somebody like me or Amy or someone else on the post. What that does adds one more layer of opportunity for you. By tagging those people, it is inviting them to start the conversation. Generally speaking, we look to invite people by tagging that we know will often comment. Some people do what it's called pods, and they get a group together saying, okay, we're going to comment on each other's posts, which is valuable. This is a more authentic and organic way of doing it, but it does generate that engagement. So now we're going to go to Tuesday, and Tuesday is all about knowing your stuff. So let's talk really quickly, the fear of getting lost. What is one absolute sure way of overcoming that fear?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Of course.
Would you recommend tagging them in the post itself or in the comments, or like Facebook or LinkedIn? Because I know some people don't like it if you're constantly tagging them and then it shows up on their page, kind of thing.
So in LinkedIn, when you tag, I always recommend that you tag in the post. People who tend to tag in comments on LinkedIn are really just trying to generate their LinkedIn community growth. They're often called lions, LinkedIn Open to Network. This is really about being more authentic, because you're probably not going to post 15. I mean, you really shouldn't tag 15 people here.
Sure.
So I would say, to be authentic, you do it in the post. If you're trying to grow the community, put it in your comments.
Got
Okay.
it. Okay.
And are you related to Joyce?
That's my mom.
I love Joyce. Joyce and I share a lot of passion for LinkedIn. So, hi, I don't know if it's Jean, but welcome. It's nice to see you. So I'm hopping back here so that I can ask the question, Jody, on Know Your Stuff. The question I had was on a way of overcoming that fear.
One of the suggestions is getting an actual physical, looking at a map, whether it's digital or paper, and tracing out your route before you go.
Okay. So we might, oops, we might say here, it's all about having a plan. Isn't that true in life? We are encouraged to make a plan as we head off to college, into the working world, and into every aspect, into most aspects of life. This really isn't any different when traveling alone. You've planned your trip. Now plan your excursions. And I don't mean simply where you are going to go. We so often have fear of getting lost. We don't travel beyond the main attractions. I always recommend creating a plan with a route that I always have available. So if I stray, I can recenter myself and get back to where I came from. Some of us are still old school and love a traditional map or a paper map. And others may use a digital version. Regardless of your preference, you can always, regardless of your preference, have no fear. You can always find your way when traveling alone. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I'm not a writer, everybody, as you all are, so these are just really examples. But what this has done, it has demonstrated that you know your stuff. You've given, you've reached them with them understanding what it is to make a plan, because we can all relate to those experiences. We've all talked about what it is to travel alone and making those plans. We plan where we're going to go. We plan our attractions. These are all things that we all can relate to. And then you take them down the course of how to overcome that fear. And we all know how to use a regular map. We've all are using digital now. So you have addressed all of the different issues that people may have, and you've addressed how they can overcome them and made it relatable with personal experience that they can relate to. Does that make sense? And again, it's just talking about the fear, and we've brought the fear in, okay? And so you might you might want to tag at Waze. So Waze is one of those navigation apps, or Google Maps. Now, why would you do those specifically as opposed to a person? Because those tools will have large followings. And so you will get into their community and reach people who travel. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're going to talk on Wednesday. I'm watching my time here. I only have 4 minutes. So I will try to
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm wondering, I've been advised by other marketing, people that people have a very short attention span. So these seem like fairly long posts. Is it better for LinkedIn specifically with the long posts, or should there be a mix, or what do you think?
Well, if you think about this as a long post, this is 3 sentences.
True.
So it's not really a long post. This one is a little longer. Some of it comes from me not knowing, as an example. But so LinkedIn has long and short form. Long posts are 500 words or more, and you have to really take that into an article. Short posts fall below that. My point of view, and again, it really depends on the person, is if you have created if you've caught them with your title and you've created something here that says, oh, this is for me, about me, they'll read on.
Okay.
And that's really, so that's why so much it comes from where you start. And with the things like asking for help, or what I'm going to talk about now on Wednesday, people always have an opinion. People, there are times where I've done a post where I've said, to tag or not to tag, yay or nay. That one has generated as many comments as if I've done for a Time to Rant. I started a post a few weeks ago that says, please take me off your list. And I went on to say, can spam is no longer a thing. It seems like if you're on a list and you don't want to be on it, you can unsubscribe 50 times and they still keep you on it. And that one was a longer one because I moved from Connecticut almost 9 years ago, and I still can't get off the Boys and Girls Club email list for some reason. But it created as many comments as yay or nay. It really depends on who your audience is and what you're trying to get across to them.
Okay.
And sometimes you have more to say than other times.
Right. Yeah.
So,
thank you. That's great. That's great perspective.
So Time to Rant, we're going to say, stop saying you'll get lost. Right? I hear this so often, and it just gets me all riled up. Especially today when we have access to tools. We have access to tools right at our fingertips. I have been traveling alone for 20 years. And yes, I've gotten lost, but clearly I found my way because I am here now. With paper maps, digital tools like you can travel anywhere and still find your way. Stop using that as an excuse and book your dream trip. Okay?
Okay.
Awesome.
Stop saying you'll get lost. I'm pretty sure somebody's gonna, and then here I would tag people that were fearful and have now traveled. I would also say in this particular one, if you are interested in overcoming your fear of traveling alone, let's connect. Or check out my book title link. Okay.
Okay.
Again, you're complaining. Everybody can travel. You don't have to get lost. It's crazy nowadays because we all have the tools, right? And Thursday, I'm going to do a real quick one for Thursday that you love what you do. Okay. I've traveled to 25 countries alone. I had fear. I had excitement. And I have had adventures of a lifetime. Sharing this with friends at Benita Samuels, at Amy Coletti, and in my book title has been one of my greatest joys of overcoming the fear of traveling alone. Truthfully, you are never really alone. Come travel with me, or maybe set your sights bigger. We are all, I was going to say something here about the countries opening up. We are going to be able to travel again. If you are just starting out, find a place in our beautiful United States and discover the gift of traveling alone. Okay.
Okay, good.
So this tells a little bit about your story. On this too, this one you could be, I recently heard from a reader who shared their first time heading on a trip alone. I felt like a mama with a new, proud and excited. And then tell a little bit of their story. So that's another way. Okay.
Okay, and do you suggest or dissuade us from adding photos or graphics or something to the post?
Absolutely add photos and graphics if you'd like. So here's the thing. Where Facebook and Instagram are heavily photo driven, LinkedIn is not. However, what I find is personal photos and personal things will drive greater engagement and connection. So especially as somebody who travels, for you to share an image of you in Istanbul or somewhere, you know, that would be incredible stuff. And people are always interested in seeing that stuff. So LinkedIn itself is about human connection, where you can automate content on Facebook and Instagram. It is not recommended for LinkedIn because LinkedIn reads your algorithms and they want you to be real. They want it to be coming from you. And in turn, they reward you for that. Another question I get a lot about is sharing third-party content. You can definitely share third-party content. My recommendation is always create your own commentary up front. So if you happen to be sharing an article that you just saw about traveling alone in, World Traveler magazine, you can say, this article totally hit home about traveling alone and overcoming the fear. It does a good job at capturing XYZ, as I have done in my book. If you're interested in reading the article, see link in comments below. Put the link in the comments because that doesn't trigger LinkedIn algorithm to say, you're sending me danger, you're sending them off the platform. They want to keep you on the platform.
Okay.
Yes. And, this process, we did in 20 minutes fundamentally. And again, this is, my first time learning your content. But if you think about how quickly I created 5 posts with not knowing your content, when you know your content, if you follow this methodology, it becomes very natural. I sometimes sit down and I'll do this with one topic and I'll do 4 of them in an hour. And then I've got mix and match content that I want to share. Or if something comes up and it's a Wednesday, you're like, I want to share this. And you have a framework to start on.
Yeah.
So was this information helpful?
Very.
I will share this also with you, Jody, so you have it, or I can send it to Amy if to share it with everybody if you'd like.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Yes, please.
Did anybody have any other questions that I can answer for you?
Benita, we've got a couple questions in the chat.
Okay.
Debbie, you had those questions. You want to pop in? Debbie, are you still on? And ask those?
Yeah. Let's see. One of them was, this is applied to LinkedIn specifically.
So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, can you use the same notion on other platforms as well? I mean, I would guess yes.
So the short answer is absolutely yes. What you will find, and this is true because of the reach and the algorithms that these different platforms use. So when I work with my groups on this and they're creating content and they're going to adapt it to other platforms. So if you're adapting it to Facebook, I almost always make sure that it's in the first person, and I always include a picture. I always make some minor modifications because you don't want to have the exact same posts across different platforms because your audience may cross-pollinate. With Facebook, you will find that you will get more likes than you will ever get on comments, unless you are on your personal channel and it's a lot of friends. You may generate more comments that way, but you'll generate more comments in general on LinkedIn. Also, because you can automate on Facebook, your reach will be much less. It's a larger platform as well. On Instagram, generally speaking, if you're going to do a link, it's got to go up in the bio because links don't work, or you can put it in comments. Generally speaking, Instagram posts much shorter. So I would, in the case of this, I might say for what we did for Jody, for her, I'm just flipping back here really quickly. I might do something with the one that says, stop saying you'll get lost. And so I do the headline, stop saying you'll get lost. We all know how to use Google Maps and Waze. And then I would put a picture of Google Maps or Waze, or you standing there with your phone in some, much more condensed. Instagram is a rapid visual with a statement.
Got it.
Okay. And then you asked about frequency.
Well, gosh, I've got so many questions. I'm trying to not hog all the time. But this content, for most of us for us that are authors, we that are authors, it's coming from our book. So let's say we have a book that is coming out, will be coming out. So we could use that book for the same content, but then it seems like you don't want to plug your book all the time.
So here, part of the value of LinkedIn is about building your expert reputation. Mm-hmm. So in that case, I would probably not mention the book, at least for some time, but I would just build the content out to talk about I wouldn't say in my book, but I would pull topics that will resonate. And so what will happen is when you announce your book, people will already say, oh, Deborah is an expert in this. She's been writing, I've been seeing her stuff. People often, I do a broad range of visibility work, not just LinkedIn, but generally speaking, people know me because of LinkedIn, because I talk about LinkedIn, I share about LinkedIn, I'm a junkie, I love LinkedIn, as you can tell. And then we talk about other things. But when I'm ready to announce my course, then they know that I have some credibility.
Got it. Okay.
Anybody else have another question?
Well,
So-
I have another one. One
Okay,
more.
well, let's
And
answer.
so you've got 7 days worth of content. Do you use the same template? This 7 days, then the next 7 days, and the next 7 days. It's the same template repeating.
Right. It's the same concept of how to structure your content. So
Yeah.
most Wednesdays, I always complain about stuff.
Okay.
And that's because on LinkedIn itself, LinkedIn's best days of the week are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Mhm.
And generally speaking on LinkedIn, you're best in the morning between 7 and 10. And then in the evening between 5 and even as late as 9, but 5 to 7 is usually the best. The template is set up for 7 days. The reason I set up for 7 days when I'm doing training for people who aren't comfortable creating content, for people who haven't been using social media platforms for some time, this is a way to get them used to doing it every day, creating that habit. Once you have that habit, people either shift down to a 5-day-a-week schedule or a 3-day-a-week schedule.
Okay.
I always say if you don't have a great presence, start with 5 days and work on that. Generally speaking, it's about, once you create your content, it's about 15 minutes a day. If you want to create content on the fly, you can definitely do a post like this rapidly and check your feeds and all the different things that you should be doing to be strategic on LinkedIn. But people don't associate this Wednesday with me complaining about being on people's email list with next week me complaining about my Zoom audio that keeps going out. They're not going to say, oh, she's complaining again, because they're focused on the Zoom audio versus the email.
Yeah.
And because you're structuring in a way that either creates a conflict, because, listen, is there anybody on here who doesn't have a point of view about not being able to get off somebody's email list? Right? So it creates that everybody has an opinion. You may like it or, your opinion is, you'll wait in line for a burger at In-N-Out and I won't. It's the same topic, but we all have a point of view on it. I won't, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So, I hope this was helpful. I'm always open to conversations. And, it's really great when you get to talk to people who actually have content, because a lot of my clients don't have content, and it's a big fear that they look to overcome, kind of like traveling alone. But,
A quick question, Benita. You said that about the best days to do LinkedIn, and you said best times. I'm assuming that's 7 to 10 a.m., right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then in the evening, 5 to 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
And what's a thing that which we'll find interesting, if you were to go into your LinkedIn profile, into your settings, you can go and look at your posts. And what you will be able to see after you start posting, you'll be able to see the ones that got the greatest reach, the greatest comments. And I often say, okay, well, look at the structure of that, look at the topic of that, because content never gets old. So you can repurpose that and continue to generate that awareness, because LinkedIn is really about building that awareness, building that visibility, and about where you're being seen. And I want to say something else to all of you, because I think this is important, and I don't think a lot of people realize it. There are 5 places you need to be online for really to have visibility. How many of you have Google My Business pages? Okay, well, I'm happy to see that 2 of you do. I am going to encourage every single one of you to create a Google My Business page. You don't have to have a physical address, but Google loves Google. People search all the time. If you have a Google My Business address, you have a website, you have a LinkedIn presence, you have your name and directory listings, all of these things ladder up that help your organic search, help your traffic to your website. 2 really interesting stats. I just did some analysis for 2 clients. One who's been working with me on doing content like this for the last 8 weeks. And her traffic to her website from social has increased 12 times in 8 weeks. So we'll just use small math. You know, she had 10 people coming from social media to her website. In that 8 weeks, it's got up to 120. I have one client that we just looked. So I started working with them a year ago, right before COVID. So I just did an analysis of January to March 12th. So right when everything hit last year versus this year. And the only thing they're doing is using LinkedIn and repurposing content for Facebook. Their LinkedIn community is much more than their Facebook community. And they went from website traffic from social media. Last year to their website, they had 487 people visit their website. And this year, during the same 12 weeks, they had 10,297. Wow. And of that, 87% was social media and direct traffic. And the reason I include the direct traffic there is because if they didn't have any visibility, nobody would know their name to type it in to get to their website directly. And the only thing they're doing is social media. So if that's not a reason to have a visibility on social media, I don't know what one would be.
And
so
ignorance, but what is Google My Business?
So if you go in and search on Google for, you might do it by topic or you might do it by business name. When you do that, up on the right-hand side, you get that little picture of a business and their information. That's Google My Business. So if you have a Google account, just go into your settings and there's a little house. That's Google My Business, and it's simple to set up.
Cool, thank you.
So how many of you would like to get a little deeper into learning how to do this? Yay, I love seeing that. Well, I thought you might. So I wanted to share some exciting stuff that I have just introduced, and I have created a 10-week program. It's a group program. I do one-on-one as well, but it's a 10-week program specifically focused on the solopreneur and those small business owners to increase your digital visibility so that you generate leads and get higher visibility and converting those connections that you have into conversations. And the things that we'll cover is we will cover your profile and how to optimize that so that it is standing out from your competitors. So I use an example. I worked with a coach and she had business coach in her headline, and I did a search just here in Colorado. In their headline said business coach. We worked through identifying who your target audience is and how to connect. I'll put the link in the chat, but the first thing you would need to do if you're interested is to complete the registration, and that can be done at benitasamuels.com. I'm putting it in the chat right now, and it's group, I can't spell, training. And I've tried to make it easy, so you can get started with as little as $4.49 for your deposit, and then you'd have a second payment due right before the course starts. Or you could do a pay in full, which is $7.59, I think it is. Oh no, $7.95. I went backwards there. And with that, you also get an hour one-on-one with me to cover anything that you want on LinkedIn. If it's reviewing your profile with you or working on content. The course is from April 29th, 4th of July, and the whole program is going to be recorded. I've got a whole workbook that has all of the steps, and we go through week after week. We have workshops so that you can come in just to work together, and I hope that you will join me. Does anyone have any questions about the program? Well, good. Amy, any questions I can answer for you?
No, Benita, thank you. I think you provided us tons and tons of great content today. I think just having a system like yours to kind of guide us, because we know we should be on social media. I mean, I should just speak for myself. You know, I am on social media, but I sometimes feel like I've really got my stuff together and I'm posting on a regular basis, and then I'll drop off, you know, because I'm busy doing other stuff, and and so I'm not super consistent. And that this kind of template helps me be consistent, and that I appreciate that.
I have to say, years ago when I met Anne's mother, Joyce, and we were talking about content development, she said she sits down on Sunday night and writes her weekly content for LinkedIn. And I thought, you know, that's so good and disciplined. And I've tried to do that. I can't say that I'm great at it, but it really does when you have a template and you just say, okay, you know what, it's going to take me a half an hour. You're probably all very, very good about sitting down and writing because that's part of what your passion is. But for those of us who aren't, dedicating that half hour or an hour is really, really valuable. Amy, I see that you put in the chat, there's one sheet that gives you a little bit more information about the group program if you're interested, and you can grab it there. Thank you for sharing that. And everybody, if you want to just chat or connect, my information is in the chat. I will likely reach out to you via LinkedIn to connect because I'm always excited to have new people in my community so I can learn from and share with. And if there's no other questions, I hand it back over to you, Amy.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. And Jody, thank you for being our test subject today and jumping in.
And Jody, I'll send along the worksheet to Amy so you have that as a guide. And if anybody else wants it, they can get it from Amy as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, I would have jumped in there, but Jody, you go. I thought if nobody else did, I would do that. But thank you.
That's where I was. It was like, I don't want to take over, but I don't want her to sit there forever either.
And sometimes people, I'll just say if there's nobody who wants to volunteer, I just make something up. But I always find that, when you have somebody who has content, it's nice to put it in reality into practice. I actually just did one of these earlier today, and I worked with somebody talking about green burial. Works across all topics.
Wow. All right. Wow. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your attention.
I learned about water cremation.
Oh boy. All right. I apologize. Bye, Sarah. Thanks for being here. I know everybody's got to jump off. I just want to close with a super quick quote. The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. So that was perfect for using your travel book today. And I think that's, we're all looking for that and trying to help other people with that too. So again, thank you, Benita. Thank you all for being here. And we'll see you again soon. Positively Powered Authors.
Very good.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
Everybody. Thank you.